Hey, what's going on? This is Chrissy with another episode of Galaxy Gardens. We're going to be doing some seed starting today, so let's go check it out. I lost my tripod again, so I'm just gonna hold our camera for today. So I have washed all of our seed starting supplies for today. We don't need that much. We're only gonna be doing one round of seed starting, but I'll talk about that in just a second. I also just got some pizza dough going, so that'll be pretty nice. And if we go over here, our mushroom bags. Remember the oyster mushrooms we inoculated? They did their thing, and they're ready to be fruited. We're not gonna do that in this video, but I'll show you it once we get it set up. They look great. Similar to last year, we're gonna be using our Petri dish germination method, using these recycled bits of sock. I already washed these. And we're gonna be focusing on peppers, tomatoes, and cabbages, along with a couple other things. So this year we're going to be doing Jimmy Nardellos, Caribbean hots, fish peppers, Scotch bonnet, habanero, a couple new ones, a chiltepin pepper, what was the other one? Bacchino yellow piquillo pepper, excuse my pronunciation, lemon drop, atomic starfish, jalapenos, fatali, Mad Hatter, Serrano, lemon habanero, shishitos again, and Cubanelles. I haven't had Cubanelles in a long time, so it's time. And then we're gonna bring back Casper eggplant this year. And the tomatoes were actually really hard to pick out, but we're gonna be doing Brad's Atomic Grape. Those were phenomenal last year. Champagne bubbles I got from my brother. They gave me like one, I think. But it was pretty tasty, so we're gonna do it again. Garden Peach is making a comeback. We're gonna try the Crimson Sprinter. Black Seaman's making a comeback. The big rainbow tomato, also from my brother, we'll try that. And then the Jersey Devil and Purple Russian, because we really liked them last year. And then what else we're gonna start are some herbs and flowers that take a longer time to get going. So rosemary, thyme, chamomile, salad burnet, Mexican mint marigold, some hyssop. I've had hyssop in years, but it's one of my favorite herbs. I was like, why haven't I bought this? This year I got it. Some Tokyo long white bunching onions and leeks. Those are going to be great to get going. I'm hoping we have a lot of leeks this year. And then, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Napa, snowball cauliflower, a couple kinds of broccoli. Really excited for that mermaid's tail. But as you can see, pink plume celery, that's a new one. And that cabbage, I don't know how to say. So that's our focus today. And we have some others as well. The way that I chose to kind of time out our seed starting process this year, if you remember from last year, we did it very incrementally. I think we started some things in January, February, March, and just kind of kept it going. Last year, our life was a little bit different than it is this year. So this year, I don't mind doing it all together. We're gonna have 3 or 4, I think 4 main seed starting events this year. So this is number 1. These are plants that typically, if you were to read the seed packet, it would say anywhere from like 8 to 12 weeks. Get them started indoors before your last frost. Our last frost is estimated for May 9th this year. But I don't like going by weeks to last frost. I think that's a good starting point if you don't really know like what your personal like microclimate in your yard is. or, you know, how effective your seed starting setup is. Now that we've been on this property for a couple years, I have a better idea of, you know, what to expect. So last year was like our main like seed starting year for this property, and I really wanted to get it right from the get-go. This year, you know, our life looks a little bit different, so we're just going to kind of cluster things a little bit closer together. So like I said, you know, these are things anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. I found with our seed starting setup, it can take even a little bit longer. Not for stuff to germinate, but for the plants to get to like the size you want them to be at, so you can transplant them. So I usually like to give things a little bit more time than they need. This year though, I'm gonna try to keep it closer to, you know, what, you know, you would see on the packet. Not because I want to follow the packet necessarily, it's just that's what my timeline ended up being. I wish I could have started the seeds a little bit earlier, but that's okay. It's still within the right timeline. So peppers, tomatoes, cabbages, onions, leeks, well, bunching onions. We have onion sets coming in. That's what that's gonna be. And then I'm just gonna pull up my whole pile here. All of this, you can see this pile. This is tobacco, mostly herbs, flowers, some hardy greens like kale and Swiss chard, collard greens. Those we're gonna get going in like 2 to 3 weeks from now. We're going, I think today's March 5th. This is like the first week of March. And I felt like last year, based on what the weather was, I could have planted everything maybe a week or two earlier than I did. But the previous year, I felt like I planted things a little bit too early. So we're gonna try to hit a middle ground and just do it when most other people do it, and we'll see what happens. So we started our greens super early last year, and they did fine. I think if we start them a little bit later, you know, they'll still be fine. I thought last year, you know, I definitely could have planted things a little bit earlier or started them a little bit later. So I think it's gonna work out. So that's gonna be our first two seed starting events. And those are gonna be all the seeds that we start inside. Our next two seed starting events are gonna be direct sowed outside. So one of those is gonna be when we put all of our lettuce and our root veggies like carrots, radishes, and beets. Those are all gonna go in the same weekend. And then the last seed starting event is when we put in more warmer weather items. So you have your corn, green beans, drying beans, summer squash, winter squash. So we're gonna try to get this in 4 different settings. Now you could include when our, you know, potatoes and onion sets come in as like a 5th one, but I think when they're gonna come in is gonna be around when I'm planting all of the radishes and lettuce, direct sown outside. So I'm just gonna lump that right in there. So that's the plan. If you saw our videos from last year, you know, I went through our seed starting pretty thoroughly with our Petri dishes and with our direct starting them like in soil inside. So we're not going to do that again this time around, but I do want to show you kind of briefly what it looks like just as a review. Otherwise, I'm going to put in the description a link to our other seed starting videos if you want to check those out. Before I get to the seed starting, I want to show you our stuff that we're going to be direct sowing. So when I said our third seed starting event, this is what I'm talking about: our mustards, our lettuces that prefer to be direct sown, and most lettuces do. That's what that's going to be, along with all these nice radishes. We got some new varieties, some beets, and carrots. And we're not going to plant all of those in the spring. We're going to do 1 round of them and then plant our next round in July for fall harvest. And then our last seed starting event, As far as like spring sowing goes, I'm not even talking about fall planting yet. That's gonna be our cowpeas. Love those this year. My favorite green bean, the jade bush bean. We got from our MI Gardener grab bags. Lima beans we're gonna try. Adzuki beans. Calypsos I've been wanting to try for a while. Jacob's cattle. And then we have Mennonite sorghum. That's gonna be fun. Our buckwheat. And then our popcorns. We're gonna focus on grain corns this year. So strawberry popcorn, glass gem, Indian corn, and Oaxacan green dent corn. We like our flints and otherwise. So no sweet corn this year, just corn I can mill, make some grits and some corn flour. And then of course we have everything in here. This whole middle section is our squashes right now. And we're gonna plant them in a different spot in a different method this year. So let's hope that works out. And then we have our cucumbers over here. And the cucumbers are gonna go out when the corn does. Everything else is stuff we're not using this year. By the way, if you're seed starting right now and any of these seeds seem interesting to you and you wanna try them, we do have a P.O. box. And I'm open to doing a seed trade if you'd like to do that. We're not selling anything, but we're also not giving stuff away. We just don't have enough. But if you'd like to make a trade of seeds, we're definitely open to that. If you do want to do that though, I do recommend to contact me at Instagram at the Galaxy Gardens if you'd like to set that up. Or you can also contact us via our Facebook page, which you can find in the link in our description. Here's our Petri dish. I put a little tape on there. I already pre-dampened our fabric in here, so that's ready to go. We're gonna go ahead and put garden peach seeds in this one. This is the way I like to label my stuff when I'm starting the seeds. I'll put today's date, the variety, and how many I want to end up with. So in this case, I want to end up with 2 garden peach tomato plants at the end. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll plant double of everything if I have excess seeds. So in this case, I'll germinate rather 4 seeds. I'll actually plant those 4, but keep the 2 best looking ones once, you know, they start to get going. In other cases, if I don't have excess seed, I'll just use what I got. A lot of people are scared to use extra seeds that they're not gonna plant. I would recommend it because I would rather expend some seeds and absolutely get the amount that I'm planning for rather than germinate the absolute bare minimum and then maybe some don't come up. So I always recommend starting some extra. So these here, I'm just gonna take my seeds out that I saved. I have quite a few. And I save on paper towels. I know that's not popular, but works for me just fine. Start 4. And you know what? I actually might even have an extra spot for a couple of these. So let's get 6 going. There you go. We're just gonna close that up. I'm gonna put our lid on top. And that's it. Easy as that. Oh, it's pretty funny. You can see our preserved lemons behind me. Today's actually day 4 of them sitting out on the counter, so I'm actually going to be consolidating those. I'm putting them in the fridge. I'll put a picture of that on Instagram if you want to see it. But anyways, back to Petri dishes. That's all I do. And so these I do find, some people like to tape around the outside so it doesn't lose any moisture. I like to check them every day. That's just something I do, even if I was doing other seed starting methods. So I'll be checking them every day. If you don't tape these, just know they do dry out, you know, within a day or 2. So do check them every day and just give them a little spritz of water there until, you know, they germinate the way you want them to. barely had any issues with seeds not properly germinating this way last year. The only seeds that didn't do well, I think, were these like really old jalapeno seeds I had that I think were just too old to germinate. And then some random, what are they called? Rugosa Rose hips that I tried to do. And I think I didn't cold stratify them the right way. Everything else did fine, honestly. So I'm doing it again this year. I definitely recommend that to you. And again, like I said, if you want to see a more detailed video about how to do this, I'm going to put the link down in the description. So let me go ahead and finish all these Petri dishes I have out, and then we'll get to starting our cabbages directly in some soil. As you can see, our Petri dishes are all set. I even have them separated by what beds they're gonna go in. So we have 8 types of peppers for one bed, 8 types of peppers for another bed, 3 kinds of tomatoes for one bed, 3 kinds of tomatoes for another bed, and then one bed will be half and half. And we're also gonna bring back the Casper eggplant this year. So that's all set. Now we're gonna move on over to some soil starts. Hi, Boo. Welcome. We are going to move on to putting some soil in here. Now, whenever you're working directly with soil, you're going to start seeds in. You want to pre-wet it, and then you're going to squeeze it until just like one drop comes out, and that'll be the right consistency. And then you'll see I have this labeled A through H. Now we have our cabbages, leeks, and otherwise here. Well, this is a little book that I've used for some years now for this specific setup with this tray. So you can see in years past, I've used it to start peppers and tomatoes once they've germinated already. I'll move them to here with some soil. Since last year, you can see the cow horn didn't work out. Since last year, I moved on to some solo cups. The same thing, I've also put them in here for them to get a little bit bigger. Hello. Hello again, excuse me. Excuse me, ma'am. Thank you. And now this year, excuse me, ma'am. Thank you. This year, we'll be doing this round of seed starting with our cabbages. So we have some herbs, thyme, rosemary, flowers, different types of broccoli, different types of cabbages, cauliflower. I only have the one cauliflower. I actually forgot to order more. We also have the onions and our celery. And you might be wondering why I spread it out like this. I did it so once they start growing in, putting 2 or 3 kind of poofy plants, they're gonna get big leaves right from the get-go around something that's just gonna be pretty skinny. Well, it just makes sense versus putting all of these next to each other. So I tried to spread everything out to give them the best kind of chance with the grow light. We'll have grow lights over it, two grow lights actually anyways, so I'm not concerned about that. But just to make it as evenly dispersed as possible, we're going to do this. So let me go get my soil all ready and we'll put it in here and we'll come back. Here you can see that we have the soil, and I've actually made some indentations that are alternating in here depending on what it is. So you can see like over here it's kind of flattened it out. Leeks are going there. But other ones like right here, it's going to be a Romanesco broccoli where I'd want it in the specific spots. I made the indentations. So I'm going to put about 2 to 3 seeds in each hole for whatever it is I'm growing. And then for the leeks and the bunching onions, that would go in those areas, I will just do a scatter sowing here. So let's check it out. All right, we got all of our seeds in here. And if you thought I missed that, I didn't. I went back and filled it in. I like to put all the seeds in first, just so I can see that I did each cell. And then all you have to do is come back with a very light top layer and just push it down. You really want your soil compacted as much as possible. I mean, you don't really need to like strong arm it, but push it in there. It really doesn't need that much. You only want to go about twice as much soil on top as your seed is wide. So all these seeds are pretty small. So I'm just gonna go through and do that, and we'll be done with this part of the process. All right, it's time to bring all this to our little mini greenhouse. All I did was do a little bit of water. I just sprayed on the top. I didn't pour any water on. We're gonna go put it under the grow lights. Okay, I didn't feel like rerouting all the wires in the bottom there up to here. So we're just gonna do one light for now. But you can see I have this distance is about 3 inches. And what it's gonna do is it's gonna keep the soil warm. And actually also have it propped up on a book so it's a little bit closer. I made my own little jerry rig light hoist there. Anyways, everything in here is going to germinate within a few days. This tent can actually get pretty steamy too when everything is in here. So I was also thinking, well, those are getting started and I need to get my mushrooms fruited. I might stick a humidifier in here, maybe not. Might do that in a different area. But anyways, these are all set. We have our other ones together. Call that a good seed starting day. Thanks for joining me for our first round of seed starting. I love this time of year. I love getting seeds going. It's really, you know, it motivates me for the rest of the season. Just, you know, you can put something tiny in the ground and get so much food out of it. I mean, what's better than that? We have our greenhouse on a 13-hour light cycle. 13 hours lights are on and the rest they are off. Some people recommend between 14 and 16. I find with our setup, 13 is pretty good at this stage, and then we bump it up another hour once they get bigger, just because around the time of year where we're putting them outside, we want to make sure that the light cycle is pretty similar to what they're going into. We'll see you next time, and if you want to check out those videos from last year that has different seed starting tips in more detail, definitely check out our description below. Otherwise, I'll see you in our next video. And if you want to follow us on different social media platforms, check out our link tree in the description. Go say hi to us on Facebook or on Instagram. We definitely want to see you. And we're most recently on Pinterest. All right, see ya. That's nice pizza. Homemade dough, garlic scape pesto from our basil and garlic scapes last summer, mozzarella and cracked black pepper on top. Can't ask for anything better.